My mother cried when she asked to move in with me, said she had no one. I gave her my bedroom, cooked her meals, took her to appointments. Then one morning I found a message on my fiancé's phone. She doesn't deserve you. You deserve better. I confronted her. She just said, I'm saving you both. He moved out that night. She made tea. I didn't drink it. Instead, I opened her suitcase and inside was, I'm 28, live in Asheville, North Carolina, and until 4 months ago, I thought I was about to marry the love of my life. Ryan and I had been engaged for 8 months, together for almost 3 years. He was the first man I ever truly trusted. No drama, no games. We were supposed to get married in December. Then my mom called crying. We don't have the best relationship. Growing up, she wasn't exactly warm. She kept things close to the chest, especially after my dad left when I was 12. She didn't cry, didn't hug much, didn't really talk unless it was about school or chores. But when she called that night, her voice cracked. She said, I have no one left. Can I come stay with you for a while? She sounded broken. I couldn't say no. I had a guest room, but I gave her my bedroom and moved into the smaller one. I figured she needed comfort, and maybe a fresh start. I cooked for her, drove her to appointments, helped her get meds refilled. I even took off work a few times just to make sure she was settled. She didn't bring much, just 2 suitcases and a box of old papers. She barely left the house at first. Just sat in the living room watching daytime TV or reading. Her face always looked tired. I felt bad for her. Ryan would still come over, but less than before. He'd been busy with work, he's an electrical contractor, and summer's always hectic. But I noticed something off with both of them. The way she laughed at his dumb jokes. The way he avoided eye contact when I brought her up. Sometimes, I'd walk in the room and they'd go quiet. I thought I was imagining it. Then one morning, Ryan left his phone on the nightstand while he was in the shower. It lit up. I glanced at it without thinking. Just one message showing on the lock screen. She doesn't deserve you. You deserve better. I stared at it so long I didn't even realize I was shaking. I unlocked it. I know I shouldn't have, but something in my gut told me to look. There were messages. So many. At first, they seemed like innocent check-ins. You okay? She's out running errands if you want to come talk. Then they got more personal. You deserve someone who sees you. You shouldn't feel trapped. One even said, if I were younger, things would be different. I felt like throwing up. When Ryan came out, I told him I needed to go into work early and left. I couldn't even look at him. I waited until that night to confront her. She was in the kitchen making tea. I walked in, held out the phone, and said, Why are you texting my fiancé like this? She didn't flinch. Just looked at the phone, then at me. I'm saving you both, she said. That's it. No apology. No guilt. Just that cold, dead tone she always used when she didn't want to explain herself. I said, What are you talking about? He's not right for you, she said. You don't see it, but I do. He doesn't love you like you think. You're my mother, I said. You were flirting with my fiancé. You've been lying to me in my own house. She didn't deny it. She didn't even look upset. She said, One day you'll understand. Ryan came over that night to get his things. I didn't yell. I didn't ask him to stay. I didn't cry. I just let him pack and go. He told me it wasn't what I thought, that nothing physical happened. But that he was confused. I asked him one question. Do you love me? He hesitated. That was my answer. After he left, my mom sat down on the couch and turned on the TV like nothing happened. She poured herself tea. Then she poured another cup and set it in front of me. I made chamomile, she said. It'll help you sleep. I didn't drink it. I just stared at her. Something didn't feel right. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was how calm she was. Like she'd planned this. Like she wanted this to happen. I got up, walked to her room. The one I used to sleep in, and opened her suitcase. I don't even know why. I just needed answers. Proof she was the monster I was starting to think she was. Inside, under her clothes, was a thin folder wrapped in a Ziploc bag. I pulled it out. It had my name on it. I opened it. Inside were letters. Old ones? And my birth certificate. I stared at it for a while before I noticed something was wrong. The father's name wasn't blank like I remembered. It said Richard Alcott. I froze. My brain went fuzzy. Alcott. That's Ryan's last name. I sat down, pulled out more papers. Letters between my mom and someone named Richard. Love letters. One even said, "I think about you every time I look at my son. I wonder if he's yours." I grabbed my phone and called my mom's sister, my Aunt Sharon. We hadn't talked in years, but she picked up. I asked, "Who is Richard Alcott?" Long pause. Then she sighed and said, "He was your mom's high school boyfriend. She got pregnant the summer he left town. He never knew. She refused to tell him." I asked, "Is he Ryan's dad?" She said, "I think so, yeah. I remember seeing his name in the engagement announcement you posted." I didn't want to believe it. I nearly dropped the phone. So not only did my mom ruin my relationship, she knew something this huge, this sick, and said nothing. I confronted her again the next day. She just said, "I did what I had to do." I said, "You could have told me. You could have stopped this months ago. Why let it go this far?" She said, "Because I wasn't sure. And I knew if I told you, you wouldn't believe me. You were in too deep." I asked her to leave. She refused. "I have no place to go," she said. "You wouldn't really throw your mother out." But I was done. So I started planning. Not yelling. Not crying. Planning. She wanted to play quiet games? Fine. I'd play louder. After she refused to leave, I didn't fight her. I just nodded and went back to my room. But I didn't sleep that night. I lay there thinking about every single moment since she moved in. The way she looked at Ryan. The way he started pulling away. And now this. All of it. She knew who he was the moment I said his last name. She knew before she ever walked into my house. That's why she called me crying. She wasn't alone. She was targeting. The next morning, I didn't make her breakfast like usual. I didn't say good morning. I just watched. She walked around like she ran the place. She even had the nerve to complain about the guest towels not being folded right. Like nothing had happened. That day, I took time off work. I called my friend Erica. She works at the county clerk's office and owed me a favor. I gave her the names, Richard Alcott, Melissa Carter, my mom, Ryan Alcott. She said she'd dig around for me. I also reached out to Ryan. I didn't want to talk, but I needed one thing from him, a DNA test. He refused at first, but when I told him what I found, he agreed, reluctantly. We met in a Walgreens parking lot, exchanged test kits. No talking. He looked like hell. I didn't feel sorry for him. Back home, I pretended everything was fine. That night, I told my mom I wanted to talk. I said, "Maybe you were right. Maybe I wasn't thinking clearly about Ryan. Maybe I needed to see who he really was." She relaxed. Smiled a little. That fake motherly smile she used when she was trying to be gentle. "I just wanted to protect you," she said. I nodded and said, "I get it now." She offered to make tea again. I said no thanks, then offered her a glass of wine instead. She drank it. The next morning, I called a locksmith and changed every lock in the house. She'd gone for a walk. I packed her suitcase and left it on the porch. When she came back, she banged on the door for 15 minutes straight, screaming that I was ungrateful, that she was homeless, that I'd regret this. I didn't open the door. Instead, I pressed record on my phone and let it catch everything she said. The threats. The way she yelled. "I gave you life, and I can take it away if I want." That was enough. I sent the recording to the police and filed a restraining order. But that wasn't the end. The DNA test came back 2 weeks later. Positive. Ryan was my half-brother. I went numb for a full day. Didn't eat. Didn't answer texts. Just sat in silence. I felt sick, dirty, angry, betrayed. And she knew. That was the worst part. She knew and let it happen. Watched it happen. And when she realized it was going too far, instead of coming clean, she destroyed it from the inside out. I gave the DNA results and documents to my lawyer. He said it could be enough to press charges, or at least protect me if she tried to sue me for anything. Then I got a call from Erica. She found something. My mom had another name. Back in the 90s, she was involved in a fraud case under an alias. Marla Keene. Credit cards, identity theft, and insurance scams. She skipped town before she could be arrested. The case went cold, but the name and social were a match. I handed everything to a private investigator. And what he found next? It changed everything. The private investigator I hired, Clay, was retired law enforcement. He didn't smile much, and he didn't talk unless it mattered. When he called and said, "You need to see this in person," I drove to his office that same afternoon. He laid out a manila folder in front of me. Inside were documents, photos, and records from 3 different states, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. My mother, real name Melissa Jean Carter, had at least 2 different aliases over the years, Marla Keene and Ann Dawson. Clay looked me in the eye and said, "Your mother has been running scams for over 2 decades. Marriage fraud, identity theft, fake disability claims, you name it. She'd change names, forge documents, and disappear before anyone could catch her." He pointed to one file. "This one's from Atlanta. She married a man named William Dawson in 2006 under the name N. He was 15 years older. Died in 2008. Left her everything. The cops suspected something, but they couldn't prove it. No autopsy was done." My stomach turned. "You think she?" Clay just shrugged. "Let's just say she's done this before. And she knows how to make it look clean." I felt the blood drain from my face. My whole life, I thought I just had a cold, distant mom with bad luck and worse relationships. I never thought I'd be looking at someone capable of this. I asked Clay, "Why come back to me now? Why show up crying like she had no one?" He didn't hesitate. "Because she ran out of places to go. And because you had something she wanted." I looked at him. "Ryan?" Clay nodded. "And your house. Your stability. Your name." She was lining up her next identity. All she needed was to play the part until the timing was right. The room spun for a second. I walked out of that office and sat in my car for 20 minutes trying to make sense of everything. My mom didn't just betray me. She was dangerous. A manipulator. A fraud. And she nearly let me marry my half-brother. I thought that would be the end of it. But then I got a call from Ryan. He said, "I think you need to come to my dad's house." Now. I drove over. I hadn't seen his dad, Richard, since the engagement dinner months ago. He looked shocked to see me. I didn't say much. Ryan handed me a yellow envelope. Inside were letters. Dozens of them. Old, folded, worn at the edges. All signed. MJ. Melissa Jean. My mom. She had tried to reach out to him years ago. Back in the early 2000s. The letters were emotional, sometimes angry, sometimes pleading. She told him about me. Told him he was the father. Said she was raising me alone. Then, suddenly, they stopped. Around 2006. The year she married that man in Atlanta. She'd been playing both sides. Using me when it was convenient, disappearing when it suited her. Richard never responded. He told me he thought the letters were fake. That someone was messing with him. He'd never seen me until Ryan brought me home that one Thanksgiving. Then he looked me in the eyes and said, "When I saw you, something felt familiar. I just didn't want to believe it." He started crying. Ryan was stiff the whole time. He finally said, "We've been talking to a lawyer. If what you found is true, and she knew, this is criminal." I nodded. "Yeah. But there's more." I told them about the aliases. About Clay's findings. About how she'd already been suspected in one man's death. Ryan looked like he'd been punched in the gut. "She's dangerous." "Yes," I said. "And I'm going to prove it." The next move was mine. I had the papers, the letters, the DNA tests, the fraud history, the voicemail from when she screamed outside my house. I handed everything to Clay, and he helped me file a formal criminal complaint. But I wasn't done. I knew she still had connections. I knew she could vanish if she sensed I was closing in. So I lured her in. I sent her a text. "I've been thinking. Maybe we can talk." I overreacted. "Can we meet?" She replied almost instantly. "Of course. I miss you. Always." We arranged to meet at a diner outside town. She showed up dressed like she hadn't aged a day. Hair curled, makeup on, smiling like the whole thing had been some silly fight. She said, "You look tired, sweetheart." I didn't smile. "So do you." We sat. I let her talk. Let her lie. Let her paint herself as the victim. Then I pulled out a folder. "I know who you are," I said. Her smile twitched. "I know about Marla. I know about Ann. I know what you did in Atlanta. In Florida. And I know you let me date my half-brother without saying a word." Her eyes didn't blink. "You destroyed my life to protect your lie," I said. "And now it's going to cost you." She leaned back. "You're bluffing." I handed her a copy of the DNA test. Her face went pale. I stood up, pulled out my phone, and said, "By the way, this conversation? Recorded. It's going to the police. You're done." She didn't say a word. Just stared. I walked out of that diner with shaking hands. But I felt more powerful than I ever had. When I left the diner, I didn't look back. I went straight to Clay's office and gave him the full recording. She didn't confess to everything, but the DNA test, the forged documents, her history, it was all stacking up. He handed everything to the county prosecutor. They moved fast. Turns out, there was already a quiet warrant out of Georgia under the name and Dawson. Insurance fraud. And in Florida? 2 open investigations tied to Marla Keene. One involving elder abuse, one involving stolen identities. Once the pieces were in place, they issued an arrest warrant. She was picked up 3 days later at a Greyhound station heading south. She had 2 fake IDs on her and over $9,000 in cash. She was going to vanish again. But not this time. I attended every hearing. She tried to act sick, weak, innocent. But when the judge listed out her aliases and her crimes, her face cracked. People in the courtroom gasped when they found out she'd let her daughter fall in love with her own half-brother just to cover her tracks. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just watched. She was sentenced to 14 years across 3 states, to be served consecutively. They called it aggravated fraud with malicious intent. Her public defender tried to argue mental health issues, but the evidence was too strong. Her scams were calculated. She kept notes. She planned every move. Ryan didn't show up at court. He moved to Oregon shortly after everything came out. We don't talk now. And I don't blame him. What happened between us was horrifying, even if we didn't know at the time. Still, it scarred me. I don't date. I haven't let anyone get close since. I'm working through it, but it's slow. The real twist? A few months after the sentencing, I got a package. No return address. Inside was a small jewelry box and a letter. The box held a silver locket with a photo of me as a baby on one side, and her and Richard Alcott on the other. The letter was short. You were the only good thing I ever did. I just didn't know how to love you right. I hope one day you'll forgive me. Mom. I threw the letter in the trash. Kept the locket. As a reminder. She didn't win. She tried to poison everything, my relationship, my identity, even my future, but she failed. I got her out of my life. And she's going to spend the rest of hers locked in a place where no one will believe a word she says. That's the revenge. That's the justice. But the real healing? That's still happening. Day by day. And now, when people ask why I don't talk to my mother, I just smile and say, because she stole everything from me. And I made damn sure she paid for it.